Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Dogma podcast. I am Jose from the Midwest, and I'm joined as every single time by Blake from the West Coast.
And I am Blake. Welcome to this podcast. Each week we will be reviewing one film. We'll try to focus on current films, but we'll also be focusing on classic films, films that we just find interesting, and basically whatever we want to talk about when it comes to movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's also like one more category that is like we are pretty close friends, but also I think that we hate each other a tiny bit. So from time to time, we may pick movies that we know that the other person may dislike.
I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed in your taste level at some times. So, yeah, we'll have some fairly energetic conversations, particularly when it comes to Paul Thomas Anderson and Magnolia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's going to be like a special episode, definitely. Pretty close to our hearts.
It's funny because before we started recording, we were talking about operas, and you mentioned Carmen. I cannot think about the opera Carmen without thinking about the quiz show on Magnolia, where they asked the young kid to quote Carmen, and they give him bonus points if he sang it in French, and so he starts to sing Carmen.
Oh, God, I don't remember that.
And then he pisses himself.
Of course. When you actually describe it like that, it makes me think of Todd Solondz.
It kind of is, yeah. I can see that, 100%.
That is sing only.
Yeah,
not
not the
Julianne Moore
rest.
killing someone with my dick. Is that not that part? It's just way more focus on the very dystopian and surreal stuff.
We're already getting off track, but I was cleaning my apartment on Juneteenth, and I found my shooting script of Magnolia, which I love to own, and I flipped to the page where Julianne Moore tells the pharmacist to suck her dick, and I thought, why doesn't Jose have better taste? I don't understand.
How doesn't he understand that this is poetry? This is elevated cinema. This is like a whole year of a whole century of creating cinema just drove us to that point. Like Julianne Moore ugly crying, telling that to someone.
But we're not here to talk about P.T. Anderson, although we should be.
Notice that.
What are we here to talk about this week?
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about La Chimera, this Italian film, 2023, directed by Alice Rohrwacher. And it's interesting because we recently talked also about Challengers. So we are seeing Josh O'Connor again on the big screen.
And he's fantastic.
Yeah, as we were mentioning on the previous, in one of the previous episodes, when talking about Challengers, I think that this guy may have like a good career if he plays his cards properly.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. So, La Chimera stars a British man who speaks Italian somewhat fluently. I don't know, I can't tell, I don't speak Spanish. But this is a very ephemeral film.
Even if you spoke Spanish, maybe it wouldn't help you understand if he spoke proper Italian or not.
Is it that bad?
No. I mean, there are different languages. I mean, you said that you don't speak Spanish. Is that, yeah, but they're speaking
Oh, sorry.
Italian.
I meant to say Italian. I don't speak Spanish or Italian, but I meant to say I don't speak Italian.
Fair.
So this is a very ephemeral film delivered to us by a female director named Alice Rohrwacher. I'm going to mispronounce that name. This film came out with a ton of respect from critics and film festivals. Why don't you tell us what it's about, Jose?
Let's see, because we also have to be like completely fair. We watched it some time ago.
We did,
You
yes.
know, so yeah. So
And also, to
basically
be
this
fair,
follows
there's not a lot happens in the script, even though the running time is what?
2 hours and something.
2 hours
Yeah,
and 13 minutes. Yep.
Yeah. So the story follows this British man played by Josh O'Connor. Is his name Josh O'Connor? Arthur.
Yes.
That he is just coming out from the prison. from jail. He said we don't know exactly what he did, but he goes back like to his old village where he used to live, like by himself in a small hut. I'm not going to go into
somewhere
a lot
in
of
Italy,
detail.
right?
Somewhere in Italy, yeah, somewhere in Italy. He's like part of a group. We discover later that he has some skill. I don't think that this is a spoiler. I think that is part of the trailer. I'm not going to go into much detail, but he has a skill for detecting ruins, like just things for previous civilizations that they are like underground. So what
Ancient
he does
Roman
is like
artifacts, your Etruscan artifacts. Yep.
yeah, and what he does is that with a group of Italian friends, is that he basically looks for those, and he sells them in the black market.
And I think that's as much of the plot that we want to expose at this point. I mean, we meet his kind of the relationships that are important to him. One of which probably the primary important one is with Isabella Rossellini.
I was going to say that is like he's friends with Isabella Rossellini. The main relationship, I don't think that is with her. I think that is actually with a maid, like a housemaid that she has, that is called Italia. Italia. There is this movie is not
right on the nose.
It doesn't go like for nuance, It's a bit of like not subtle around like Italia represents Italy. Like the character of Italy, and it has like principles and values, and I think that we see like so much. Personally, what I took away is like this a bit more of a character study about like these two people, about like who they are, but there is also a bit of this guy represents the rest of Europe, especially the UK, and Italy represents Italy. Is all of the values of traditional Italy that is it may be a bit crazy, but she is like very well intended. She has principles about like what is right and what is wrong. And UK is like, well, maybe they did in the past, but I don't know, is that when you go to the National Museum in London, is that you find all of those artifacts that they are stolen from other places. So I think that is a bit on the nose that this guy is representing UK. So I appreciate that Isabella Rossellini is there. It's like as a good like David Lynch fan. Is like I'm always going to be appreciating her on the screen, but I think that she is mostly secondary. It's a bit more about like we are in Italy. Let's just get like an Italian actress that everyone recognizes and loves, like the same way of Catherine Deneuve in France.
I mean, if you think about the way directors use different actresses or characters, and you think about the way David Lynch used Isabella Rossellini in Blue Velvet, it's like stunning, right? She may not have that much screen time, but it's like, holy God, when I see Isabella Rossellini on the screen in Blue Velvet, this is incredible. When Alice, the director of this film, put her on the screen, I feel like she didn't use Isabella like she could have. And maybe that's a result of the writing, but I felt like her character was a little bit of a waste.
I feel like every single character is a bit more of an aspect of Italy. So it's a bit more about like the maternal, not really like a maternal figure, like motherly figure. That's a bit more Italia, like her role. But I think this is a bit more of the mother that it actually ignores her kids, or actually like minimizes her kids in order, and she actually appreciates more like the external ones. That in this case will be a bit more having passion for, hey, the UK is way better. When actually it's like, no, the UK is pretty shitty. Like what this character with Arthur is doing is like pretty shitty, and you are letting him get away with everything.
So I mentioned before that I feel like the nature of this film is fairly metaphorical, ephemeral. Do you really think it's that basic? Like this is a metaphor for Italy? And let me preface that question, because I never found like a lofty, elevated metaphor for this film. I actually walked away from it furious, and I think I texted you, and I was like, "This is fucking bullshit." Not that the film is horrible, but do you think the metaphor is that simple? It's just like Italy compared to the UK, competing ideas about colonization.
I mean, I think that it has those elements, but I also feel like it tries to be like this kind of dreamlike story too, about like how he chases a long lost love that he cannot let go.
So, spoiler alert, we find out that, like, turn away if you don't want to know the ending. We find out the main character, Arthur, lost his wife or his girlfriend, and he's just kind of constantly trying to find that same thing again while risking his life.
Yeah. He becomes a bit more of a daredevil, of not caring too much about his life.
Like, he doesn't value his own life. He's willing to do whatever because nothing matters anymore.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't look at the camera and say that he's like, oh my God, I'm really depressed. You know? So it's a bit more like how he handles that part too. So it's like, I feel like it's a character study about like these broken characters in different specific ways. But I also feel like, I don't think that it's simplistic, but I also think that it's like you can just apply this layer of you can abstract some of the characteristics of these characters as a commentary of these countries.
So I've already shared a little bit about how I felt, that I walked away super frustrated with this film. And there's actually 2 scenes where we are forced to watch basically bards sing songs in real time. And I was like, this is not cinema, man. This is not cinema at all. That being said, I found the direction ultimately compelling, if very frustrating. I think the tone of this film has a contemplative tone that I generally like, but still this film left me wanting. But tell me how you felt about it.
I appreciate like the effort that it did from the directing perspective to look like an old film from the 60s or 70s. There, like for example, when you're talking about like the bars playing the guitar and singing, I think that after that there is a double time scene, like a double speed scene, like super random. That is like, where is this coming from? It follows like some aesthetics choices that I feel that it's like, oh, okay, you are out there, and then you move to a bit more of a dream scene that everything is like more metaphorical, or like when they're finding like these archaeological pieces that it feels like a mystery, and it's like it can be a bit more of a self-reflection for the characters, and like the contrast of how they move it. So when I watch it, I left the cinema feeling like this was a good film, but I think that is a film that Blake would hate.
And I did. So my views have softened a little bit since then. I think this is, I hesitate to say important, but I think it's a very good film. It's not my cup of tea, but I appreciate what the director was trying to do. I appreciate the performances. I think there's a lot to uncover with kind of the magical aspect of what Arthur was able to do. And at some point that pairs with the grief, I assume he feels for the loss of his partner. And at some point they couple, and it's an interesting kind of comparison or metaphor, but ultimately for me it was not strong enough. Like, if we were to put a Google Calendar notification for 1 year and ask, do you remember anything about this film? I would be like, just that I hated it.
Okay. It's okay.
That's strong language. I disliked the film, and I don't think it's memorable or that important, but I think it's very good from a technical aspect.
I think that you feel about this movie as I feel about ballet. You can appreciate the artistic value of it, but it doesn't resonate with you, and you don't want to be forced to see it.
Hold on, let me take that in. Okay, so I see what you're saying. There's artistic merit to this film, but it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yep. It didn't resonate with you. You know, it's like, you don't hate it. You're not saying
I feel like that's
bad,
that's the final review. It's pretty good.
But it's not for me. Okay. No, for me, as I told you, I left it, and it was like, this was good. It still felt like 2 hours. and 15 minutes.
It was a long
there is no
film.
way. It was a long film, and it didn't made any effort for make it shorter. You know, it was like, yep, I'm going to use all the time. There is going to be like different pace. About like some scenes are going to be like super slow. That you may see like someone walking like through a beach like in real time, and other ones are going to be like double speed.
And also, there were as an amateur archaeologist, I got furious about how they destroyed the artifacts they found. Oh, I got so upset.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, let's not go more into even more detail. Should we go over the questions?
Let's do it.
Would you watch it again?
Never. That's a lie. That's excessive. Probably in 5 years, I would watch it again and be like, do I like this film? Do I not? It's worth revisiting, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. So, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go with yes, but albeit I liked it, it's a movie that is not... It didn't feel like work. But
really?
It didn't feel like work because I liked it. You know, it was resonating with me. But it's also at the same time like one movie that I wouldn't watch a month from now. It's like if I'm like with someone and it's like, oh, had you watched like Chimera? It's like, yes. That's it. When other times I would be like, yes, I wouldn't mind watching it again. It's like, yes, I watch it. For now.
So let me add one more question. You're at the water cooler at work. You're talking to coworkers. Would you ever recommend this film out of the gate?
Yes, I think. Well, I could recommend it, but I also understand that this is not for everyone. So, like, very close to each other is like we went to watch Challengers, like Chimera, and another movie that we will talk about some other time. And it's like when I was telling people like which movies did I go to watch recently, is that I couldn't mention like Chimera, but it was not because it was like, oh my god, it's like they are not going to like it. It was more of a they know Challengers and the other one for sure. Because
so it's just that there's popular. A very specific audience for La Chimera.
If I hadn't watched these other two movies like next to each other, if I know that if I tell someone, it's like, hey, I went to watch La Chimera, this Italian film, you know, it's like really good, you should watch it, is that they're going to say like, what? What is that? Is Italian? Is that, yeah. The only thing that I could add to that is like, yeah, the guy that shows his dick in God's Own Country is in there to actually sell it. But most people are not going to be like that interested. So you are right. I would mention it. Is that, hey, I went to watch this movie. It was pretty good. I would recommend it. But most people, I think that they won't care. But
in the right audience at work, you would recommend this. Okay.
I would recommend it. If someone tells me, if someone tells me, say, oh, I know that they like cinema, not only about like whatever it is, like the latest Alice Garland movie that everyone is going to forget in 3 months, is that I would definitely recommend this movie.
All right, next question.
So would you recommend it or not?
I can't imagine a situation where I would recommend this.
Okay.
It's not that it's a bad film. It's just like I honestly can't imagine a conversation where I'd be like, oh God, have you seen La Chimera? It's just not going to happen in my lifetime. And that's fine.
I would recommend this to my sister and even to my parents. But they're Europeans, so
way more sophisticated.
Cinema better. Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to them at Christmas.
So you already said it, but it's like you won't remember this movie.
I don't know, because as we mentioned, it's been honestly, like 6 weeks since we saw this film, and I remember an awful lot of it. A lot about it. So I think I might not be able to forget it. So I will remember this film, yes.
Yeah. I think that there are some scenes that I may remember some scenes. Probably like the silliest one, like the double speed and the general story about like this guy. I remember the ending. I won't spoil it. I think that I could remember the ending. I like it. Like the ending, how it actually closed the story.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. Is there anything artistic about it?
I think the performances are very good. I think there's some very strong writing. I think
Yeah.
the direction is very strong. I would like to see Alice, and I'm going to massacre her last name again, Rohrwacher. I would like to see what else she has to say as a director, because I think there's a lot of interesting things there. So yes, the answer is yes. That was a very long yes.
My answer is a shorter yes. That's it. I like the aesthetics that she uses in a very uncompromising manner. That is like part of the story is like it feels super silly how it's shot, because like that a scene on the boat is super incredible silly.
What is the scene on the boat?
With an auction.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. Interesting.
This movie lasts more than 2 hours, and a lot of stuff happens. You were saying at the beginning, not much stuff happens. I disagree. I feel like there is a lot in it.
Yeah, in my mind, this film was mostly about like walking around in the woods and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it also has like a bit of that critique to how do we appreciate art nowadays.
And like robbing countries that have cultural relevance and value, and
Yeah. Is it a timeless piece? For me, I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
I think there is nothing that really fixes it on a specific decade, and that's the reason why I think that on purpose they record with that style, that it looks like an Italian film from the 60s or 70s.
Yep, I agree. And the themes it explores are timeless completely.
Yeah. Would you turn this into a TV show?
Nope.
You couldn't turn it like Arthur and the merry group of villains of archaeologists thieves?
If the script had made the Tomb Raiders basically more interesting, yes, but they were ancillary characters. There was nothing that interesting about them. No, okay. I spent 2 hours and 15 minutes with these people. I don't need to spend any more.
I will go with no too. I can see like an angle that they could exploit, but I couldn't watch that show. Could La Chimera have been a short?
Yep. This could have been a crisp 20 minutes. No doubt.
I'm going to go with no. I honestly think that is like the several like topics that they have, like how they explore it, about like the personal like trip, like the social commentary, like from the different countries, how they apply, because half of the people in Italy don't care about the art that they have there, like just lying underground, and I think that all of that, like the overall like message about like how they're using art as just basically money, it requires more than an hour. I don't know if it requires more than 2 hours, but it requires more than one.
Okay, that's fair.
Do you think that this movie could have been better?
That's hard to answer. I would say yes, they should have edited this down.
That's fair. I'm going to go with no, because as I was telling you, there is like a lot of stuff that we may have already forgotten after 6 weeks. But at the same time, I felt like there was a lot of stuff that happened in there. The pacing was a bit weird, sure, but I think that it was on purpose for just like throwing you off from time to time. So I probably wouldn't touch it. I'm not saying that it's a perfect film by any means, but it's like...
But there's no like glaring defects.
Yeah, it's like, I think that it's not easy to just say if you change this would have been like a better movie, because I think that if you cut like 30 minutes of the movie, you have a very different movie.
I can see that.
Yeah. Oh, so should we score it?
Let's do it.
And as always, a warning is that this is not supposed to be like an official kind of a score of anything. Is more like how we felt about the movie, especially after discussing it. So nothing serious.
I'll go first. I'm going to give this a 7.5, which the way I rate things is a good film. I think this is better than most things you can go see in theaters right now. I think it's worthwhile, even if it's frustrating or doesn't deliver on some things. It's an interesting film for sure.
Okay, no, that's fair. I'm really surprised. My score is an 8.
Oh, very close.
Yeah, but it's like I'm surprised because I was like pretty open into. I like it. I think that it was a good film. I think that there is like artistic merit to it. And for me, I actually find refreshing from time to time, like watching one of these movies that is more out there, because the whole narrative it also is a bit out there, but it's more classical at the same time.
But also, so I've expressed my frustrations with the film, which I think are valid, but if a film is able to frustrate me, there's enough there that I'm working intellectually to try and figure it out, which I think is super valuable. So it didn't work completely for me, but it got me thinking. It got me thinking about both the story, filmmaking, what I wanted to see in films, and I value that.
That's interesting how you use the word frustrating, because it's that there are movies that I can tell you that I was pissed at them, and I only consider them like a negative aspect of that movie. But you're like describing like frustrating from the perspective of I appreciate the elements that I can see here. All of the elements are correct, but when I add them all together, they don't resonate for me. Is that where the frustration was coming from?
Yes, and honestly, I know we bring this up a lot, but I thought a lot about Celine Dion Goes Boating, where you could tell there were super interesting elements, but when you add them all together, it didn't work for me. But you can tell that there's something special there. And I could appreciate that about this film.
Yeah. One small note for the listeners, as this is only one of the first episodes, is like this Celine Dion Goes Boating is a bit of a recurring joke of a French movie from the 60s, I think, or early 70s, that is called Celine and Julie Go Boating. Celine Dion was not involved with that movie in any extent. And it's a 3-hour movie, very avant-garde and surreal.
Yeah, it's like work. It's 4 hours of work. Again, not to say there isn't something there that's worth looking into, but I felt the same way about this film, that it's like, okay, this is a lot of work and maybe we'll uncover something that's worthwhile, but is it worth the effort? As my previous boss would say, is the juice worth the squeeze? I think not.
Okay. I tend to use if it's worth the calories that you're going to be spending on it. Yeah. Okay, no, that's good. That's a good way of summarizing it. But yeah, no, that was great. This was a good conversation. We actually were able to scratch more than I expected.
More than the next film we're going to talk about, I'm sure.
And yeah, to everyone out there, thank you so much for putting up with us, as always.
And join us next time when we uncover our feelings about another film.
All right. Okay. Bye.